the desktop audio, turn that up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with episode 54 of Zed Daily. I have Sean from Starry Night Stables with us today. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. Good to be here.
Nice to have you, my friend. So, Sean, I wanted to start it off before we get into Zed Run. I wanted to ask you about your crypto journey. What was that like? When did you first discover crypto and like start buying in?
Wow. So it was back in 2012, 2013. I was pretty early on in college. I'd come across Bitcoin. It fascinated me as like a novel thing that was like emerging, that was out there. And I bought a few Bitcoins. It was sub $300 back then. But I bought it. I didn't view it as an investment, which is kind of dumb. I viewed it as magic internet money that I just was interested in. Um, I saw and believed that it would grow up, but it was a really different environment back then. The exchanges were very shady. People were constantly posting about how they had their Bitcoin stolen. And so I'm pretty tech savvy, but I'm not a programmer, so I always felt a little bit cautious. And of course, I was early in college, so I was broke, and so I kept it for a few months, made a little bit of money, then sell them, and then regret it a week later, and then buy a few more, and then uh, waited a little while, and then was broke and sold them. So I made a little bit of money very early on, and then I was paying. Well, back then, I remember Ethereum, the initial coin offering. I remember the white paper Vitalik wrote. I remember Ethereum meetups happening. I remember the idea of a DAO fascinated me. Just the potential of it to be able to create worker cooperatives or even consumer cooperatives and organizations tied to different ideas or initiatives in a decentralized, trustless, organized fashion was fascinating. And I went to grad school, and that concept of Ethereum and the DAO always stuck with me. I was in a PhD program studying industrial organizational psychology, so I had studied a whole bunch about how to organize people into systems and structures to accomplish tasks and achieve goals, and the DAO structure as a way to organize people and a way to organize uh, accomplishing things is a beautiful structure, and I think it's going to take off in the years coming as the technology advances and it gets adoption, more and more adoption. But just as a vehicle, DAO replacing many LLCs is potentially there. I mean, there's a lot of hurdles to do something like that, but I like it as a model for organizing people. But I didn't own many Bitcoins throughout this time, and I owned Ethereum a little bit here and there. But I wasn't really heavily invested throughout those years.
All right. So you said it was kind of just like it wasn't really an investment at first. What was like the switch? What made it an investment?
Well, dude, I mean, I wish I owned more Bitcoin than I do right now. I've never really aped into owning lots and lots of Bitcoin or Ethereum. I wish I had. Um, so uh, I was really busy in the PhD program. I started a consulting firm and then with some other people, and so I got even super busier. Then I defended my dissertation and started another consulting firm and was traveling a whole lot. And this was all just like downtime stuff. I'd listen to a podcast or I'd look up the Bitcoin price and just try and stay a little connected because it was interesting to me. But then COVID hit, and when you're working in HR consulting and everyone's just laying everyone off, like the first thing that goes is the consultants that's doing HR work. And so my world got much slower, and then at that point I started to look at, well, what's going on in this crypto, Ethereum, and NFTs were the boom. And so just doing some reading and my downtime came across Zed, came across Top Shot, and Zed caught my imagination, um, thinking it's a brilliant use case. And it um, it takes the NFT and the blockchain to another level. And I really thought it was just fascinating. It was great. And so looking at it as an investment, I guess, jumping at NFTs, buying a whole bunch of Zed horses was an investment. I still own a handful of Ethereum and not a full Bitcoin, but some Bitcoin, but I wouldn't call myself like a crypto native or like a bankless person. I just own a little bit.
All right. So, what was when you find Zed? What is the entry strategy? Is it to get racehorses, or is it to get like Genesis horses to breed? What was your initial strategy when you first found this game?
Well, I had come across Doofy's videos, and that's what got me hooked. I mean, him jumping on screen, being "What up, champions," and doing his Doofy thing, and I was like, "This is the coolest stuff ever." And so there was a drop coming up. I think I want to say April of last year. Um, there was the drop where everyone lost tons of money on gas, and then the drop that followed that drop was the drop I was like, I'm jumping into, because I was around for the drop where everyone spent tons of money on gas and very few people got through. And then the one after that, I think it was the first drop on the Matic network. I don't know, but I jumped in on that one. And my strategy at first was is I wanted a male and a female Genesis, and this kind of this is my thinking in terms of responsible investing was, well, if I buy two Zabos and it all flops, then I can at least say to myself, it could have been worse. I mean, I could have bought Nakamoto's. Like, I mean, I had a lot of faith, but this was all very new, and I saw a whole lot of challenges with it. So my goal was to jump in and get two Zabos, male and female, on that drop, and I moved money around. I think I had $10,000 budget, and then the drop came close, and they changed the prices dramatically, and I wasn't anticipating that. And so suddenly it's like I buy these Zabos. I don't even know if I could have afforded them. Number one. Number two is if I did buy them, I'd have no money to race, like with all what I had budgeted myself. So I went to Z5 Finney's just because they fit the budget. And so I got a male and a female. First horse I bought was Starry Night, was the female. And then I bought Tough Justice, and Starry Night turned out to be pretty good. I don't know how good she is. I stopped racing her, but she has good odds. Um, you know, and got kind of hooked, and I just kept buying Z5s. Yeah, I went into the secondary market after that and ended up buying a few more.
All right. So, Starry Nights was like your staple horse that gave the stable its name.
It was, and my thinking at the beginning was, well, I'm gonna use this female and get some males. I'm gonna breed out her, and I'm gonna take her into the stud barn. And so basically, this whole stable is gonna be built off of my female, and so it's all gonna be Starry Night offspring. That was my initial thinking. So naming it Starry Night Stable just made sense because it's all going to be Starry Night. So I've since bought more Genesis females, so that's gone out the window, but kept the name.
All right. So it sounds like you had this horse around the odds era. So when did the game plan switch? Because a lot of stuff switched in Zed. Odds got taken away, fatigue got introduced. There's a bunch of stuff that they either took away and then added. So how did your game plan change in that time from removal of odds and then introduction into flames?
Strategy changed. Well, odds made things really simple. The game was very straightforward, but it was also a little deceiving because you'd have horses that got great odds. Mostly of them that got great odds were natural U shape or U shape horses that have that variance to really push up their odds. And so horses that were pretty good, um, but didn't get sub eight odds, sub nine odds but were still pretty good horses, weren't even raced back then because you saw the odds at 14 or 11 and you just didn't race him. So how my strategy changed, I mean, I didn't really think it changed all that much. The more I sort of paid attention to my stable and breeding, the more I was convinced I needed to have a good variety of horses as a foundation, and that having just one female was not going to cut it. And so I wanted to sort of build out. I think I have 11 Z5s right now, um, and some other Finnys, Genesis. Um, so I just wanted to build out variety, and then also I felt that at some point in this game, scale is going to matter. So being able to produce more offspring out and having a scaled up a little bit quicker made sense to me. But that's really it. Racing wise, I've never really been a huge racer. If you look at my stable in terms of racing, like I don't think I have 100 wins yet. I think my stable as a whole has like a 14% win rate. It just means I haven't raced a whole lot. Um, I mean, I've raced enough to play around and have some fun, but a couple of things happened. So I bought a handful of horses, raced a bit, and then life got a little bit busier. And then my mom got diagnosed with a brain tumor, and so I was doing a lot of she had a lot of care going on at that time, and so Zed went into the back seat over the summer months of 21, and then I came back uh, post fatigue implementation, and when I had stopped playing, downclassing was like just a thing, but it wasn't as prevalent. And I came back and I saw downclassing was like revered. I mean, it's like put up on a pedestal. If you can get a horse that can tank itself to the very bottom, that's how you win in this game. And I remember coming back and and I know people who are in Zed day to day and live this world in and out. And they see downclassing as a super valuable strategic way to get an advantage in the game. But having the kind of unique perspective of playing it another way and then coming back and having some familiarity with that and then coming back in a downclassing world, it's a big turn off for someone racing. And what I mean by that is you go to a race and now you have stacked knacks. Back then you just had to look up the horses and know your horses. And you see horses that, you know, 6 of them were 2 classes up just 2 weeks ago. And you're like, what is this, man? Like, um, is this, is, you know, established stables who are strategic, they're tanking to the bottom and just to take money from the folks who are just trying to learn and have fun. And is this how you really want to grow the game? So I know people love it and it's profitable, but I'm not a huge fan, and I know it's controversial in Zed circles, but it's what it is.
Controversy's fine. So, and it makes for great discussion, so we can talk about it. What would you like to see Zed change to either prevent downclassing or not have it be such a big deal?
So there's a couple of things. Okay, so the addition of Elo, along with um, different race types, such as double ups, top 6 get paid, and winner take alls, and short run tournaments. Those 4 things in combination are going to dramatically change Zed, I think, in terms of your strategy, in terms of your approach, and in terms of being profitable. So let's sort of take a second and look at Elo. So everyone, at least on Twitter and stuff, are really focused on the idea: is Elo distance based? Is it distance funnel based Elo? Because that is, you know, if it's not distance funnel based, we're still going to be able to downclass and then gain some advantage. And downclassing is still going to be this sort of strategic aspect of the game. But I think that we have to appreciate the math behind what Elo actually is. I mean, if you look at what it is, so let's just sort of use an example. Say in the example, class 3 in an Elo system is Elo ratings or horse ratings 1,500 to 2,000, right? And so if I'm in that range, I'm in class 3. Say I have a sprinter who's a 1,900, so he's at the top end of class 3. I don't want to go up into class 2 with this horse, and so I have a strategy of I'm going to go up to marathons and I'm going to try and get rid of some of my elo points and stay down in class 3. So I'm at level 1900. I go up into a marathon 24, 2600, and who am I racing? Well, there's likely going to be someone in there who's roughly a 1900, but he's a marathoner, right? Because that's his distance preference. And he's roughly the same thing I'm doing, but I'm doing it at 1000. He's doing it at 2600. Now, what if he beats me? He's going to beat me. But what happens then? Well, I'm a 1900. He's a 1900. What happens to both of our scores? Nothing. That's what elo is. Like, think about where elo came from. It's chess. So I play chess and I'm playing another chess player who's the same level as me. When I win or I lose, or he wins and he loses, we both don't move much. What matters in elo is the distance between our scores. If I'm a low level chess player and I play a chess master and I beat them, his score is going to go down, my score is going to go up, and we kind of do that thing. So the strategy for downclassing in elo, if you wanted to do off distance downclassing, and this is my understanding of the math behind elo, it all depends about how they implement it, obviously, but is you're going to have to look at your off distance, your downclass, down button distance. But in addition to that, you're going to have to try and find one with lower elo scores than you. Because if you're racing your same elo score at your off distance, you're just losing to a person that you're level with, and you're both not going to move. So if I go in there and I find a 2600 that with everyone in the races 200 elo scores below me, I'm game on. Like, because I'm going to lose, I'm going to give them some points, and because they're less than me. So does that make sense?
That makes
sense.
sense.
See, okay, well, if there are other ways to game the system, think about party mode. So if I want to downclass in an elo world using party mode, how would I do that? Well, one, I'll go to my off distance and say I stack the race with my other horses from my stable or some friend's stable that are one class below me in their preferred distance, and I'm one class above in my off distance. So these are horses that are lower than me on elo, but are in a preferred distance. And they're probably going to beat me because I suck in this example at a marathon. Now, what's going to happen is I'm going to go down, they're going to go up. So I'm going to be artificially inflating the elo of my donkeys or lower level horses and sort of artificially decreasing. But every time you do this, there's diminishing returns because it's all the distance between them gets less distant. So if I do it 2, 3, 4 times, it's not going to have that same level of impact. Does that make sense? Because the distance isn't as big. So you're more, and in doing that, you're basically sacrificing your lower level horses. You're ranking them up into an elo rating, which is not true to them, putting them in a position that if you ever wanted to race them anywhere else, I mean, you're just kind of, you're making them stuck. I mean, you're going to have to try and continue to race them to get them back down, which is going to happen eventually, slowly. But so you can see how elo as a system, whether it's distance based or not, downclassing as we've known it is not going to be quite as simple. Now, I think people love it, so they're going to keep trying it. And it is going to be a strategy, I believe, but it's not going to be easy. And I mean, the only way to do it is to sacrifice donkeys and hope they keep beating your good horses. And then those donkeys are worthless at that point because they're just way too ranked up, you know? But I think that elo solves a lot there on that front.
That's awesome. And that was a great way of explaining it. Like, that makes sense. Like, you'll be able to bring your horse down to a certain point, but after a while, you're just going to kind of be stalling out because there's not going to be much difference between this horse and then the one that's like not good at that certain distance. So then it's kind of like this guy's going to kind of come
There's
down,
just diminishing returns. If you're like using 2 horses to trick the system in your own party mode, you're just diminishing returns are coming. Gotcha. And if you're just going to your off distance to down class and you're racing horses that are just same rank as you, but just in their preferred distance, them beating you because you're the same rank, it's not going to like make you go way down. At least in like sort of basic traditional elo and my understanding of it. Look, Zed could implement elo as like a foundation can be played with mathematically. So you can do it so that it's very fluctuating, or you can do it so it's very stable. Um, so who knows what they're going to do? But I think Elo is going to change the downclassing environment. And my opinion, which might be controversial in some areas, is uh, great, good. I think um, that's more growth potential when you have that type of environment. But also it changes the game a bunch. So think about this: in an Elo system, okay, so recently I love the idea of double ups, meaning example of one token to enter and or $1, whatever, and top six double up, so win two tokens. Now, uh, first off, well, this gives the right, currently in the Zed system, there are only two types of horses that can grind, and that's it. One is natural U-shaped horses, diamonds, and Dank and Vanilla Bean, and I don't know what else, Bonnie Parker. I don't know. The ones that are famous that are out there. And then there's heavy distance specialists, which have a down button, and you can grind those horses. Or and I guess there's also like the top tier, like the Crimson Chin
Mm.
and such, where they're not downclassing, but you can grind them because they're just the best out there at a distance, and they can remain profitable. But I think implementing different game modes in terms of, or race types in terms of like double ups and winner take alls really changes the game. So, because let's go back to the example of in an Elo system, I have a class 3 sprinter who's level 1900 in an Ero bracket that's 1500 to 2000. So, and I look at that horse, and let's say that horse is pretty high base ability and pretty good distance preference. Now, if I race that horse in class 3 sprints, double ups in that Elo system, um, there is a mathematically and sort of logically with the way that Elo works, because Elo can be Elo. I mean, there's math behind Elo to use it as a predictive tool. I mean, they do that. Now, I don't know how well that's going to work in Zed, and I doubt they're going to make it very statistically, so you can like
Right.
use Elo to run probability stats. But so say I'm at the upper end of my Elo bracket with a high base ability distance preference horse, and I decide I want to grind double ups. Now, if you look at my advantage, that horse is, think about it like the casino. A casino is 51-52% advantage, and so at scale they make money. I'm basically racing in that Elo system with a 51, 52, 53, 54% advantage of landing in the top six, because I know, and maybe even more. So I know at scale, if I grind that horse in double ups at say $10 double ups or whatever, um, that I can very predictably end up in the top six more than I end up in the bottom six. And so that horse who maybe only has a 4% win rate horse, but has but in the Elo environment, it has a slight, and I'm talking like slight left lean. If you look at like Know Your Horse's position charts, that slight left lean, because I'm at the edge of that Elo bracket and with distance preference and high base ability, that's enough advantage for me to grind and make money. So it offers opportunity for horses that right now where you're just like, this, I can't do anything with this horse. Um, so that's a game changer. That's an absolute game changer when you can do that. And then you look at like double ups. So I mean, in an Elo world, we all know this, that the natural U-shaped horses are the cheat code. I mean, they're they're gonna hover in wherever Elo they land in, and that variance that kicks up high end, those wins, is just gonna maintain. Um, Now, if you look at like a winner take all system or race, um, in a winner take all race, if you win 1 in 12 times, you're even,
Mm.
right? I mean, you look at Diamond's win rate is 18.5%, 19%, right? So if I know I have a good base of data to go off of, and I know that I'm gonna have an 18, 19% win rate. And at a 12% win rate, I'm break even. At a 19% win rate in a winner take all world, I'm going to be making money
Mm.
if I just grind winner take alls. If I maintain my 18% win rate and say I'm doing $20 winner take alls, I mean, that's significant. That's significant value in that horse. Just say you're a class two, you're not even a class one, you're just a class two U shaper. Grind and winner take all, $20 winner take alls. I mean, that's huge. And the amount of money you'd get for winning is significantly more than if you're doing like the double ups, which is just doubling your money. In winner take alls, you're making a bunch, you're making it all. Um, so I think that those things really, really, really change the game in what it's going to look like, how you're going to play it, strategies you're going to employ, and I'm all here for that. I'm excited for that.
I love that. And I was gonna ask you, but you kind of answered it. I was gonna say, would you rather have a Crimson Chin type horse, which is just high base ability but distance preference, or would you rather have a Diamonds type horse to where it's high base ability but the variance is you can win anywhere?
Okay, so let's take the pros and cons of both horses, and I'm not even going to look at stakes racing or tournaments. So if you look at the Crimson Chin, I looked the other day that because I talked to Keith about this stuff, and I know he's really, at least on Twitter, not in person over anything like that, but on Twitter. The Crimson Chin has a 76% rate of landing in the top six of a field, and he's racing against what is among the best horses in the game. Now, there's also horses that are pretty, I think he's a sprinter, and there's also horses that are pretty good that get up to class one right now and race the Crimson Chin once and are say, fuck this, like getting out of here, and they're just tanking down to the bottom again. So there's likely going to be more competition a little bit up at the top, but say he goes from 76% top six rate to 70% top six rate, and he's racing $20 double ups and he's doing 9 of them a day. Jesus Christ. Like that's a horse that can bring in money. Like, and that's not even like stakes racing. That's not even tournaments. So that's a valuable horse. Now you also now play like the game of going into the future. Obviously breeding is going to be, people are going to breed and breed and breed and breed and breed. And slowly but surely, new beasts are going to be coming up. And over time, it might take a year, it might take 2 years, it might take 3 years, but you kind of can think that say 70% top six rate right now might drift down to 68%, 67%, just because the competition begins continue to grow and increase around him. But horse would have so far to go to get down to 50-50 and not profitable. That, I mean, he's got so much earning potential. So yeah, I mean, the Crimson Chin would be great, but diamonds, like I said, natural U shape horses are the cheat code, like literally the cheat code. Like in this game, they hack the game. In an ELO world, you can go into winner take alls and obviously be profitable. You could go into high stakes races, and if you hit the right flip of the coin, obviously profitable. You could get into short run tournaments. These long tournaments aren't really too kind, but the short run tournaments, and you could be super profitable. You could even go in the double ups and be pretty confident that over the scale, you're not going to lose money, because even if you're 50-50, you're even, right? And you can go in traditional top three racing and you can obviously be profitable there. And you're not going to just continue to rank up into a world where you're not going to have any return. And if there's a world, I know that they're doing the training period or establishing your elo for all the horses, so you might come in and actually end up right out of the gate in a pretty stable elo. But if there is a situation where you're leveling your elo up, the natural U shapes are going to level up slower and be profitable all the way up, leveling up. their rating. So on every front, I think I would prefer natural U. Now, also think about it this way: if we add in the world of renting, God, this goes down a rabbit hole.
Let's go.
But
Let's
and
go.
I do you want to go down the
Let's go.
renting rabbit hole?
Let's go.
How much time do we have? Because I got so many thoughts about tokens and renting.
All the time you got,
Um,
man. I'm good. Let's go.
so before I get into renting, let's talk a little bit about token. So the examples that are out there, like that are have working games around them right now, um, or Axie, Peg Axie, that are like pretty big and kind of similar. There's other smaller like pixelated wolf and mice games that are out there that are doing stuff, but they're just not even a similar model to like what Zed's. I mean, racing and battling are pretty similar. Both those systems, I mean, they're more or less bubble making machines. I mean, they're inflating tokens into the system. There's no fixed supply. They're just pushing tokens into the system. Um, and then creating value because other people want to join. So they want the token so that they can capture more tokens, so they can capture value. So it's all just value extracting and it's inflating the token. And ultimately, a system like that, uh, like it's got to pop at some point, or the developers need to transition to a more of a model that maintains it. Now, what I mean by that is they could use different features or tools or mechanisms within the game to be able to burn tokens, but burn's got to balance with creation in order for this not to sort of inflate into an unreasonable, unmanageable, ridiculous bubble. Um, so I'm a proponent of a fixed token supply. Uh, that makes sense to me. And with the fixed token supply, there's a lot, feels like there's more levers you can pull to manage the token economy and the balance of, sell pressure and buy pressure, and you're not inflating it. Now, how and what Zed is doing with the token, I don't know. And if some of the suspicions that are kind of going around, at least that I have, is that the token might actually end up being Park, which is part of Human Park, and then also Park might also have additional games that are in that system. And Park itself seems to me like it's going to have gamified features and stuff. Like you're going to do stuff to potentially earn Park in Park. Um, so you're going to have if this is the model they're going after, which I think it is, but I could be totally wrong. Like, I'm speculating here. Like they could have a DES and it could be totally separate, but there's a lot of value to having the token be a part of a bigger ecosystem because that creates more stability and there's more ways to put pressure on the coin at like a high level for purchasing pressure or sell pressure, and you can manage things differently than if it's just in Zed, which feels to me like it would be more volatile if it was just within Zed. Um, but so you take that model and you put it out there and you say, okay, well, if we're going to have a fixed supply token, what would be the amount of tokens we'd have, and what would be the rate that we would introduce these new tokens into the system, and how are we going to do it? And you're starting to make a lot of you're starting to try and like anticipate a lot of different potential outcomes with Human Park and with other games and expansions, and it just becomes really, really, really hard. Um, and so the fixed managing, if they're going to just create tokens out of thin air through Zed and just inflate like Axie and Peg Axie, or if they're going to have a fixed supply, and having a fixed supply is tough. Both are tough to do. So I mean, they have a big challenge, and I know that I was listening to Pony Plug the other day, and was it Nebra?
Mm-hmm.
He made me feel a lot more confident that they're working with like real legit people who know tokenomics, um, and so I do have confidence that they're going to get tokenomics right, and um, I also know that the predecessors, no one's done tokenomics in a gamified world like this at scale, long term successfully. Everybody that's done it has done it with success over shorter periods, and then it sort of falters and falls apart, crashes, or they're too earlier in their infancy to really know how it's going to play out in the end, like Pegaxy. So they're trying to do something that hasn't been done. And I respect the hell out of doing that because it's a hard problem to solve and no one solved it. So, but I think that they're going to. And I think the person that does solve it is going to have great first mover advantage, and potentially massive adoption because this is an area that has interest all over the place. Um, the world of GameFi and play to earn and so forth. So, taking the idea that Zed is going to be a what a lot of the people in the community want. They want it to be dog eat dog. They want it to be no free lunches. Like you're not coming into Zed and joining a free race and getting tokens at the other end. Like that's Pegaxy, man. If you want that, like they're just inflating tokens and they're just throwing things out there so it's free and then you earn at the other end. So let's play the movie out with renting with a dog eat dog, no free lunch, everything's paid for, not inflating the token version of Zed. So where adoption's been huge in these play to earn games has been in parts of the world or countries where the average daily wage is real low. I mean, we're talking like average daily wage of like $10. And those are the places that have seen huge adoption. So playing with, say, I'm a person that's in that world and I see Zed and I'm pretty savvy and I'm pretty good with games. What's going to be my approach? So I get into Zed and what's going to be my experience? So say as a renter, I get into Zed and when I first open a stable, I already know they're going to do probably going to do something like this where they give you like a learning stuff to have it to experience Zed before you actually rent a horse or do anything with it. So you probably get something like a self-destruct horse that can only go into like free races and it can't win any money. So say you open a stable and in my mind, you get a horse that's like, hi, I'm going to self-destruct after 10 races. This is what you can do with me. Let's go try and do it. Like a bubble that comes off the horse or whatever, just like you play another video game. And so you take that horse and you can only put it in free and you can't win any money. And you're just learning how to like enter races, what to race against, and so forth. And then your horse self-destructs after like 10 days. But I know that they've also mentioned this in different places on Twitter and then in some interviews as well. There's going to be site rewards. You're going to earn token for engaging on the site. So say after 10 races, so after my self-destruct horse disappears, I get a site reward of like 10 tokens. Now you're thinking like, okay, in a dog eat dog world of Zed, you just gave me free money. Like, how is that not inflating token? How is that going to be paid for? Well, you'd have to also think Zed's going to have like an advertisement model of some sort, whether it be as simple as just using advertisement on the front page or just simple as using billboards inside the game, or in the more sort of extreme sense, say they make you watch a 30-second video before you can view a race or view the results of a race in that more extreme advertisement model. Now, obviously, if they made you watch the video, there'd likely be some sort of like season pass or whatever thing you can buy to like avoid doing it, like you do on like YouTube and stuff, where you're able to avoid the ads. But those advertisements, say they go towards the site rewards. So I've sold my eyeballs to get my 10 tokens. Like it's paid for. Like I'm not just making tokens out of nowhere. This is dog eat dog Zed. So I've got 10 tokens. What am I going to do with this? If I'm really savvy and I thought about this, like, and I know what I know now, how would I approach that with my 10 tokens? Because I can blow up my bankroll real quick like that, right? So there's two approaches I thought. And one would be to do a double up race because I feel like I'd have a safer chance of getting in the top 6. But there's also something we got to understand. Like in Pegaxy and in Axie, it's the person who's renting the asset to the renter that usually has the majority of the profit from whatever happens in the race. And that's because the person who's renting it is taking zero risk. I'm just taking something off a market and I'm plugging it in a race. and it's free, and then I'm getting money out of it. And so there's no risk for the person renting. He's just grabbing it and putting it in, and then money appears. Um, but in Dog Eat Dog Zed, I got my 10 tokens. Like, I'm going to have to go and risk those tokens for me to gain money out of this game. Right. So the person who's renting it to me is taking zero risk. They're just renting it out. But I'm the renter. I am taking risk in this model. And so I should get the majority of the winnings, not the person who's renting it to me. So you think in this model where it's no free lunch Zed, say it would be like a 70-30. 70 goes to the person renting it, putting up the risk, and 30% goes to the owner. So say there's that 70-30 model, and I'm looking at how I'm strategically approach Zed to win money, at least based off of what I think Zed might look like. And Zed could, like, I want to stress, like, I'm speculating all over the place here. Like, I have no clue what Zed's doing. But so say that's the model. I go in there. I could consider going into double up races because I feel like I'm not going to lose my money, or I'm not going to lose as quickly there if I lose it. But at 70% in a double up race, what do you win? You win, I think, 1.4 if I did the math right. So every time I win, I don't double up to 2. Because the 70% goes to me, I get like 1.4. That's not much. Like, I get 0.4. Like, if it was one token to enter, I would leave with 1.4. That's not great. But that might be a way to grind. So you rent a few horses and you grind double ups. And if I'm strategic enough, I do what I talked about earlier, where say I'm in the renting barn and I have Know Your Horses open. I'm looking for a particular class. Say I want, class 4 sprinters. I'm going to be looking for high base ability, good history of landing in the top 6 against similar field, likely on the top end of that ELO spectrum of class 4, because that's going to give me more assurances that I'm going to have that equity of the top 6, and I'm going to have an advantage of landing a top 6, right? So that's one approach. The second approach, I think, that I would actually take is, say they had short tournaments, but they're not even really tournaments in my mind. They're more like double headers. So say, for example, you take 24 horses, all put 1 token into the pot. So 2 full races, top 6 from each race go to the finals, and then top 6 in the finals get tokens. Like, so we all put 1 token in. And if I get top 6 one time, I go to the finals and I get top 6 again, I win 4 tokens. Like, I spend 1 and I win 4, and all I got to do is land top 6 twice. And I feel like I can find horses that can get top 6 2 times in a row. I feel like I can do this. And I feel like I can do it at a rate, because every time I do it, I more than double my money every time I do it. So in that model, I'm putting up the 1 token risk, and say I rent 3 horses that I really think can do top 6 2 times in a row. Say I do it, a dozen times with dozen, like, these short, like, double header, double up tournaments, or whatever you want to call them. I don't know. So I would have, if you do it a dozen times, you have spent 5 tokens, or do it at time, you've spent 12 tokens. And if you win 5 times of the 12, you'll have, do the math, 14. You'll have won 14 tokens. So, I mean, you're already ROI positive, and you're not winning every single one. I mean, it's pretty realistic. You win, like, what, 1 of 5, or winning 5 of 12 seems pretty reasonable. And you're making money. And say I just do that 2-3 days in a row. Some days I'm going to obviously make more than others, but say there's also a site reward that once I get to 100 races in my stable, so I get another 10 tokens. So suddenly I'm continuing to grind, and I'm making a few tokens each day, and say 2 weeks, 3 weeks go by, and now I got 200 races, and so I get 10 more tokens as a site reward. Suddenly I'm up to 60, 70, 80 tokens. And think if every token's worth $1, I'm almost in the range where I can buy my own, like, Buterin exclusive, or so forth. And I can, like, get a horse where I can then take that horse and basically do what I'm doing now, but not have to pay a 30% fee to the person I'm renting it from. So now I have one of my own horses, and I'm grinding with a bunch of rented horses and trying to make money so that I can get enough tokens so that I can breed my one horse that I have, so I can start expanding my stable. And so in this dog eat dog world, with a wide variety of different short acting tournaments, and with different game modes or ways of playing that's like, double up or traditional top three or winner take all, you can come in. And if you have strategy and you are calculated and you're focused, I think you can leverage getting a little bit of seed money as site reward and really do something with it, and really like play the game and actually earn. Um, and that's in an environment that's where you're not simply just giving away tokens endlessly. Everything's paid for.
Yeah, that
Does
there
that make sense?
that makes that makes a lot of sense because instead of just giving away free tokens, everybody's winning here. The people that are renting out their horses are winning because they're getting X amount from whatever the guy renting is getting, and so the guy coming into the game can build his stable off of the backs of other horses. So it's like that's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the way this grows. I mean, and that's honestly like the dream of Web3 is like you could take a person who lives in a world where there's a $10 average daily wage, and they, through a little bit of hustle, through a little bit of work, through a little bit of time and strategy, they can get to a point where they're reliably making $15 to $20 an hour a day playing a game, and they can do that relatively quickly. And if they're extremely enterprising, they might even be able to build things up over time so that they're reliably making $20, $30 a day. And now they're making more than two of their neighbors combined.
Mm.
And they're, putting food on the table. And that's massive. That's what we've seen these types of play to earn games already do, but only do it short acting periods, and then it sort of falls apart. But that, you can do that. And then also take the example of like in the future, say you're like a 13-year-old kid and you love playing video games and you want to save up for your first car, and you find a way to come into Zed. You get your seed money for just engaging the site. You grind it for 3 years. Suddenly, you end up after 3 years with like $10,000 worth of assets and stuff, and money that you've accumulated. And you sell a few horses, and take the money you've accumulated, and you're able to put down payment on a car for your first car. That's very possible to do in that sort of environment.
Yeah, that sounds amazing, and especially if you figure out a strategy to do it, then you can just kind of be like, hey, I figured out how to play this game. I know this is what you got to do here, here, and here. You just go tell your buddy, and then he'll tell his buddy, and then you just got a whole ass team of people that can
Oh,
rent out this stuff, and you guys got your new jobs now. That's pretty cool.
for sure. Yeah. I mean, it would grow huge. And every example we have that's out there, even Pegaxi, which is a pretty clear knockoff. Um, and I mean, like mechanical things with wings, it just doesn't even make a ton of sense.
Mm.
And they don't have any visuals to the race, but still, it's growing like crazy right now. I mean, that's one thing we can't ignore is that there's there's volume that's happening on that platform. Now, the thing I appreciate about Zed is if you look at the landscape of all these different metaverse projects, and you look at how they've approached things, most of them have released tokens in advance as part of like a money making, like a fundraising thing. And then they release hype videos to keep people from selling the token.
Mm-hmm.
So you're raising funds, and then like, hey guys, look how great we are. Hey guys, look how great we are. Hey guys, look how great we are. Type of idea. Zed's taken almost the exact opposite approach, where they're straight up no token. We're building our kind of janky platform in public, like so everyone on here can play it, and they can all talk on Twitter about how they're what the things they hate about it. So all of our public PR is not all just hype, 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 hype. It's more, it's like, dude, this is broken. This sucks. I hate this. They need to change this. This is happening. Race generation. Zed hates C1. Everything sucks. So, I mean, they've literally taken the exact opposite approach from everybody else. And the game is not disappeared yet, which says a lot. And it tells me that, what token or not, they hit a home run on Human Park or token and all that stuff. Obviously, everyone wins. But let's say they don't, like even the worst case scenario, it's like, well, we kind of go back to where we are now, which is like a bunch of people playing a game. Some are profitable, some are not, but this game exists in a world where it's not have all of those other things that everyone else is just using as hype tools or as fundraising tools. So it gives you an idea that this game and this concept, this idea has more resiliency in the market, and people like it enough that even if you're not super duper incentivizing people engaging with it by using a token and inflating that token and just creating value out of thin air, even when you're not doing that, there's people who are like on here all day, every day. And that says something about the product, the innovation, the feeling of the game, the look, the design, all of that fits a niche that people and the market is going to like. And if they get everything else to align, which everybody else is already flaunting right now, but they don't even have a game. But if they put the stuff that everyone else is saying, look at us, we already got, and they get that into Zed as a platform, I mean, I think it has huge potential.
I'm with you,
Huge
man.
potential.
It's I've went and looked at like people that have Pegaxy and they post on Twitter. Just kind of like you said, Zed, you'll see people that are pissed about class 1, race regeneration, whatever, right? You go to Pegaxy, you just see win scholarship. Hey, can I get a scholarship? Hey, scholarship, can I get a scholarship? You're like, oh, people over here just want free money. People over here actually care about their game. So, like, which one do you see working long term? I'd rather go with the one where the people care about the game, even though, like, shit can be janky at times and people are upset, they still play Zed and they care about the game. It's not just, hey, can I get a scholarship?
Right. So I completely agree. And so look at Pegaxy and even look at Axie and minus the token from it. What would happen there? They'd be non-existent. No one would be playing them. Like the only reason people go there is because this token creates a value model for them where it's essentially free to enter and you earn money. I don't think that model's sustainable. It scares the hell out of me to have a non-fixed supply token. Like an inflationary token it's a hard pill for me to swallow. And I'm not like a token expert. Like I don't know enough about that stuff. But it scares me because I feel like there is no free lunch, like in an economic sense. Like you can't just keep inflating something and eventually the market not respond. And if you think, well, if we just keep driving demand in so many different ways, you keep pushing different ways to use it. There's so much utility. There's so much, we can create so much demand in so many ways. So we think it's totally cool that we just like spit out, 8 million tokens a year, every year, or 10 million, 20 million, 30 million tokens a year, every year, all year. And we just have to create demand. It's like, dude, like that's like you're playing with fire. You're playing with fire there, because the minute adoption slows or demand slows, the pressures push that thing down. and it's scary. So, I mean, I know they're looking at that stuff, and I have some confidence that Zed's going, to hopefully create a token economy that has stability, that has sustainability as its like core principles. Um, Hell, I want a deflationary token, like burn a whole bunch a year, let this thing disappear so that we can inflate in value over time. But it's probably not going to happen.
So some of the comments say, this all sounds amazing, but what are the downsides we have to be aware about?
Downsides of what? Of a token, of an elo, of um, I mean, I don't know. Um,
It's hard to see the downsides though, right? Like you can't really
well,
expect like your pitfalls.
so on token side, the downfalls. Well, when we're in Ethereum, like we've recently seen this, Ethereum prices fluctuate, and we've gone in a bit of a bear market. Now, if we're playing with Zed tokens, I think volatility can be scary. I mean, um, if we think Ethereum can have, you know, change in the winds, I think that if a token like Park or Des or whatever could have more volatility, and more exaggerated like response to volatility. So it starts to go down. It's like, dude, I'm not going to hold all of my winnings over here on Zed in this token that's decreasing in value. I'm going to jump over into a stable coin. I'm going to jump on over into Bitcoin or Ethereum. And then everybody does that. And then like you tank the value. We all tank the value of this coin. So I mean, creating ways to stake it so that doesn't happen as much. So people have to like keep it and ride it out, and they're incentivized to do that. That's ways that you can try and create some stability. But I mean, I guess downside on token front is you got to think about how they're going to try and keep this thing in some ways not like a roller coaster. We're all pulling our hair out in the middle of like every couple of weeks. We're just like screaming at our screen, looking at token flying up or down, and that's hard to do. Like like I said, no one's done this really good yet. Nobody.
Yeah, yeah. So he said, yeah, token. He said it makes it seem like everyone can make money, but who loses money on the renting part at least. But it wouldn't be that you would always
So
win those double doubles, right? Sometimes you would lose your one
no,
token.
no, you're not gonna have. I mean, like in the true dog eat dog world, like okay, look, there's ways that they can do this. Like, say for example, the when I was talking on the Twitter space with you the other week was, I mean, what if they did a token release and they airdropped all of us some tokens, and then they implemented a model similar to Bitcoin where they had a curve where they released more tokens over time. So year one, we're going to release 10,000 or 10 million. Year two, we're going to release 9 million. Year three, we're going to release 8 million. And the curve goes down. And so they're slowly releasing token, and I'm making numbers up. It could be whatever numbers. I have no clue, but they're releasing token over time. And so there's still a fixed supply, but they're juicing some pots or juicing racing with tokens that are entering into the system. But it's not like an endless forever token fountain inflating the value. So um, yeah, I mean they can do that, but so they can make it so that it's a little bit easier to be profitable early on because there's less people playing and there's more tokens entering, which equal easier to get profit. But say 10 years from now, there's more people playing and less new tokens entering. You're like, it's going to be a little bit more dog eat dog. But you just sort of playing with those ideas where, but still, in like no free lunch Zed, you're gonna kind of have to have some people who have red days that they're not profitable. Like it's gonna happen, and if in like dog eat dog version of Zed, like there's gonna be people who come in and get their like whatever site reward for starting out, and they're gonna blow up their bank account.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're gonna blow up the tokens, and they're going to sit there and be like, God damn it, that sucks. Um, and I know that Zed's not going to like that. They're going to want to like capture people and keep them around. And so maybe they do some sort of second chance thing, or I don't know how they'd work it. I mean, you don't want those people just to fully disappear, but in dog eat dog world of Zed, they could just fully disappear. Like, oh, that was a nice try, you know. Um, I don't want that. I mean, I think adoption is vital, at least in these early stages. So, I mean, I want people to come in, and even if they blow up their bank account, like I play with ideas in my head to say this. You look at horses that are out there, like those natural U shape up at the very top of the field, up at the very top of the game. Those guys can grind and make money like seemingly for a very, very long time. Um, and you think like, okay, what would a health if there was things like those types of horses in a healthy economy, what would the economy do to manage those assets? And in most cases, in most countries and most municipalities and so forth, they tax them. And I know that this is a topic that people are going to hate, but it's like taxing the rich. I mean, like you got a horse that is able to make 60 grand a year, right? Like just grinding high dollar winner take alls, right? And you're like, dude, okay. And then on the bottom end of that spectrum, you have people coming in, getting $10, 10 token site rewards and blowing them up left and right. So there's two extremes here. What would you do? Like maybe you set up a system where it's like, after you've made $50,000 worth of horse, only in grinding races. We're not talking high stakes. We're not talking tournaments. We're talking just regular straight paid. Once your horse made $50,000, you tax it 2.5% for all of its winnings. Now, how would that work out? What would that do to the prices of those elite horses? Well, it might change it, but not much. I mean, this is a horse that's proven to be a constant breadwinner. Um, and putting a bit of on tax on it, and that maybe it's, I don't know, whatever, put a tax on it, and that money goes into like a second chance fund where for the people who blow up their bankroll early on, it's kind of like a, you know, here's a helping hand. We'll lift you off the ground. Here's 5 tokens. Don't F it up this time. Like be strategic, figure it out. Like, and so you're circulating, creating a circulation from like the very top back to the continuing to grow user base. Now, I mean, obviously, the idea of taxing horses is going to, no one's going to like that. Probably not going to go anywhere. But I mean, I think capturing the people who are coming in, and we might lose. Like I don't want to lose people like that. I want everyone to sort of, even if they kind of come in and suck at the game, it's like, well, at least have a chance to continue to play.
Yeah, man. That sounds interesting. And even though all of this is speculation, it's nice because it gives you either like a sense of what could be coming down the road or like just like cool ideas that could be implemented in the future. So I love like all the speculation and just your ideas, man. Like they're very insightful and yeah, that was great.
Yeah, cool. I think one of the perspectives that I think us players in Zed right now, I get it why it's like this, but I mean everyone has um, it's really focused on like the things that need to change to make sort of improvements over the next week or next 2 weeks or next month. Um, and there's a lot of them, and they've obviously over the past few weeks in this 2022, they've been a much more communicating much better. They're out there all over the place. You can, I mean, it's fantastic, and it feels like there's going to be a lot of change coming, which is really cool. Which is going to address a lot of people's immediate concerns. But I also want to like implore people to think about this, like play the movie out into the end of 22, beginning of 23 and into mid 23, 2023, there's going to be a handful of these quote unquote play to earn games that are out there that are live. Um, we're not going to be the only player in town on that front. And consider like the idea of like there's going to be like review sites popping up on the internet, and there's going to be someone who's like heard about play to earn and is going to be like, dude, like that sounds really cool, I'm going to play or play to earn game. And they go to a review site that, you know, that gives a description of the game, and then everybody gives their reviews. They're like 5 stars, 2 stars, 3 stars, and they're going to look at for one that fits their interest and that has the best reviews. Like, I think it's right now, as a community and as a game and as a platform, we need to think about what do we want our reviews to say? Like, I mean, do we want it to, I mean, how do we want it to play out? I mean, I want it to say in some, like, at least right now from where I sit, I want it to say, you know, the game is a ton of fun to play. And if you come in and you're strategic and you are calculated about what horses you go after and where you race them and how you race them, and you take your time and really put your energy and effort towards it, you can win in this game. And that's at coming in from zero, coming in from $0. And the community that's out there, they're super helpful. We cheer each other on all the time. And they're always there to help you out if you have a question about what horse to get, what horse to rent, and where to race it. You know, I mean, I want those types of reviews across the board. And, you know, I obviously, the thing I don't want is I don't want, you know, a million 1-star reviews that say it's a bubble, it's going to blow up, they're just inflating tokens, they're pumping tokens out, everyone make money, go run and play it for now, go, you know, go race and make money now, but it's all going to blow up soon because it's Axie, you know. It needs to have an element where like you got to work and like make good decisions to, you know, be successful at Zed. You can't just rent something and put it into whatever race you want. Like Peg Axie, it's all random. Like every race is random. Like there's no strategy. Like you get a Peg Axie and you put it in something and it's randomized what happens. And it's like the most basic thing ever. And you get tokens for doing that. It's just taking this and put it into a random. It's quite literally, it's a slot machine, man. A slot machine. I don't want that. I want something where you come in where if you're smart, you can get that 53% advantage, where you can be the house at the casino, where you can be the one that's like, if I grind this and I get that couple percent advantage and I grind it and I'm smart about it, like I can make a come up. Like, and that strategy has to happen, because if you don't have that, obviously you're considered gambling. Like it's got to be a strategy game, because if you're considered gambling, regulation comes in and that becomes an absolute nightmare. So, you know, and I want strategy to be at the core of it, and I want people to succeed who are good at strategy. But thinking about from the terms of the end point, the reviews on the site, like, I mean, we're going to have competition, and I want to, you know, have everyone thinking about like, you know, what do we want that world to look like when they look at Zed and our reviews and what our game is and what our community is and how we operate, and the excitement that we have around this platform.
100%. If you were coming into the game today, you had half an ETH, you understood the game, you researched, what would you start your stable with half an ETH?
Half an ETH is tough, dude. I don't know. I think right in this current market right now, those legendary low Z's like legendary Nox or legendary Zabos are like undervalued for based off of like what ability that they have and the price that they're going for. I think that they're undervalued. Now, I also think Genesis are going to matter. And I'm pretty sure you can get a Genesis or maybe even two Genesis at the bottom end of the Buterins with half an ETH. So I mean, that's the debate. I'd probably I'd right now I'd probably if I had half these, I'd probably buy some Butte Genesis if I could afford them, and that'd be option one. Option two would be going for low Z Knox, whatever I can afford, um, up on that spectrum, because I feel like they're a little bit undervalued in the market.
I would normally say low Z knock with you if it wasn't for all the stuff that they have coming with like the Zed token and the Genesis. I think maybe coming into the well,
Oh yeah,
if you want to race, then like maybe go for the Z4. But I think the just a floor Genesis, like we saw it before with the the last announcement, how the Genesis floor rose. So even if you just want to get some value, that might even be a good play. Just buy a few floor Jennies and wait for them to pump.
I think Genesis. You got to really understand that the game grows. There's going to be a lot of horses, like a lot of horses that are out there. And in Genesis are going to be only horses that are not increasing in population. Like it's a scarce asset, uh, and it's a capped asset. So owning that is always going to be smarter. If the game gets bigger, they're going to be worth more because they're going to be more and more and more and more scarce.
Jim Butte floor right now is 0.16. Wow. And then last question for you. Actually, last two. If you could change one thing in Zed, bring back odds, take away flames, what would you
Yeah.
change?
Okay. First thing is we got to talk about this breeding between two of your own stables thing.
Yes.
Like, come on, man. You're still making us do this? Like, I don't know why. I mean, I guess I know why they're doing it. Maybe they're doing it because they want a higher active stable number, maybe so that they can look a little bit bigger. I don't know why they do it, trying to play the games of active stables per month or whatever. But like it's gotten to a point where it's just frustrating. It's like just let me get the same discount in my own stable. Um, it I find it just annoying, and I know it's a small thing, to save the money just between two stables, but it's an annoying thing, and I think I mean, um, I like the idea of being able to like get one of your own breeds before putting it out into the public market. Like I like the idea of yes, everyone else can have a chance, but let me at least like I know that it happened to Alhambrin recently where he got zero of his breeds that he wanted, and like it's a and bots that's a whole topic, but bots can ruin Zed, like ruin Zed, in a variety of ways. They have to be proactive with whatever they can do to not let bots destroy breeding, destroy racing. Like bots can be a real headache, a real pest to this game. So I'd want to change breeding between two stables. I'd want to change being able to potentially do in-house breeding before it goes into the public market for at least some, maybe one breed of my male or whatever. Um, I want more stable management tools. I want to be able to organize my horses into stalls. Like I want my sprinters to be in a sprinter
Ah.
stall. I want my marathon to be in a marathon stall. I want my donkeys to be in a donkey stall. I want my breeders to be in a breeder stall. I want to be able to set defaults so when I go to a particular race before I go into a race, so that if I'm having to click fast, like I'm going into sprinting races, I click my default to my sprinter stalls. Boom, boom, the only horses that pop up are my sprinters. It says bam, bam, I'm in. Like I don't have to scroll, and I don't have to look at my stable and like just get confused. I'd even go so far as to say I want to be able to put notes and tags on horses. Like I want to be able to organize my stable in a way that like has that works for me. Because as these stables grow, it becomes a big pain in the ass
Mm.
to like scroll through stuff and remember stuff and see stuff. Um, yeah, I think those are my big things.
Yeah, those were great. And I don't think anybody's came on and said the cross stable breeding yet. And like I didn't even think about it, but yeah, it's such a big problem. Like I didn't do it for like 2 months, and I once I really did it, I realized how much money I could have been saving. I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
I've been shooting myself in the foot just by doing it in house. But to me, that makes the most sense. Like I don't know why a game would incentivize you to go make another account to breed with yourself. So I'm with you. I'd
I
like to
mean,
see the in house.
honestly, I really think it is to make their numbers look a little bit better. Like, because it doubles every player.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it makes every like legit player has two accounts that are active at that point. Um, and hey, man, I mean, maybe they wouldn't have gotten Netflix and money and all that stuff if they didn't have that. Okay, I appreciate it. Like, look, like, you're scratching our back, we're scratching your back.
Yep.
Like, you're getting us Netflix, we'll breed between two stables. But I've kind of gotten to the point where it's like, all right, enough's enough, dude. Like, just come on,
Yeah.
fix this.
I'm with you, man. All right, last question. If you could buy one horse, you had an unlimited budget, the owner was willing to sell it, one horse, what would you buy and why?
No question, Billions. Billions is the only horse that has a one of one skin and is a killer. Like, you just can't get better than that. In terms of like, if this game blows up, that horse is going to be a very, 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 very expensive horse. Um, and if that wasn't on sale, I'd go after a natural U shape like diamonds, man. I think that horses like diamonds are going to have longevity in the game. Um, and they're the unicorns. They're the cheat codes. They hack the system, and I think that, I mean, my perception is I think that variance, they might change the breeding algorithm so that some traits can pass and some things are a little bit more dynamic, so you can look at parents and trees and make more strategic decisions around breeding. But I think one thing that's always going to remain random, and they're always going to control the bred population of, is the super high variance, high standard deviation horses, uh, the cheat code horses. And I don't think they're going to be able to breed those with consistency, um, and reliability ever. I think they're always going to be RNG, and it's always going to be a small, small, small percent hit the lottery of those natural U shapers. And I think it has to be that way, because if you could breed those natural U's into horses and strategically do it, you're gonna they break the game,
Mm-hmm.
like in an elo system. So I think that those horses, because the population of those types of horses seems like it'll grow at a smaller rate, and it's going to have longevity, because when you hit the top end of that coin flip, like, you can beat anybody, anywhere, anytime. Like, those horses are, they're those are great, great, great horses to have.
Yeah.
They're just money makers. They're money makers, man. I mean, they're breadwinners. They're just going to keep making money. It's a great horse to have.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. And that's why I don't think I could ever sell him, is because that's what I asked myself in the beginning. I was like, if I sell this horse, 10th offer from arbitrage, do I feel like I'll ever be able to get a horse of that caliber again? Hell no.
Dude. Yeah, I don't know. I doubt it. I think that those horses are going to be, um, they're just going to, and well, if you look at whatever, like, at least it's just anecdotal. Like, I pulled Zed data. I did, like, I'm not a computer programmer, but I know a little bit. I'm better at stats, so I was able to write some code in Python and pull the GraphQL data, and I ran a whole bunch of analysis on breeding. This was like a while ago. Like, I'm not talking like BG level. BG's got a whole, like, legit operation. I'm talking like amateur level of, like, doing that stuff. But once I get the data, I'm good with stats, and I can run all the stats. Um, Breeding appeared very, very, very random. At least when you look at it at a high level, this is like muddy, 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 muddy data. Like, to try and pull information out of this data, it's like you're teasing things left and right. I think Elo is going to clean up the data. I think after Elo, I think BG is going to have some really cool insights, because with Elo data, he's going to be able to look at things with a little bit less muddy. Um, but So I haven't confirmed this. I mean, I've looked at the breeding data, but I haven't confirmed this. But my suspicion is that the natural U-shaped horses seem to appear more often in like those high butyrine breeds than they do at like that Nakamoto level breeds. And I know in like the documentation they say Nakamotos are harder to breed. Maybe that just means it's less often they pump out natural use.
Mm,
Maybe it's like a 0.05% chance to pump out a natural U Nakamoto Z2, and maybe it's a 1.2% chance you pump out a natural U for a high butyrine legendary. So because I think, I mean, the legit top of the cheat code get horses are like diamonds. I mean, they're the low Z natural U's. Um, and I think even if you expand it out into the future, you might get a whole bunch of natural U uh, legendary buttes or exclusive buttes, but they're not going to be as powerful. They're going to hover in class 3, and then you're going to have the very few danks and diamonds that are natural use that are in class 1, that are like they're just going to be more. I feel like it would make sense to me that they're a little bit harder to get and more rare um, in the end.
yeah, yeah. I'm with you because uh, we see with like those Buterin U shapes, they don't have the base ability. They have the variance. They just
Yeah,
don't have the base ability to compete in class 1.
but I think those horses are still going to have huge value in the system. But they're going to incentivize class 1. There's going to be more tokens going to class 1 wins. They have to. There's no way around it. Elo doesn't work unless you incentivize being up in Elo. So I mean, you've got your Buterin U shape that's down in class 3 or 4, that's hovering around and is still profitable, but say during a 1 month period it can generate $1,000, $2,000, maybe one ETH max. And then you take a horse that's in like diamonds that's getting juiced pots up in the top, and it has the base ability and the natural use shape to hang out in class 1. You'll generate 3 times that. Say you get 3 ETH easy, a month out of that horse. Um, so I mean, obviously, the Buterin U shape is going to be nice, good, and always seems like it's going to have value and profitability. But it's not going to be as profitable as the top ones. Now, also think about the renting side. Renting a U shape would be a dream. Um, those are the type of horses where I think, say you can rent a good base ability distance preference horse at a 70-30 split. I think that people with U-shaped horses, because they're going to be in such more demand, you could rent those for 50-50, 60-40 splits, um, because there's less of them and they're obviously profitable, like obviously. Um, and so because you can put a premium on what you're renting them for. And I think that's going to be a game for those U-shaped buttes, is renting. I mean, renting out a U-shaped butte for a day, you can get away with 50-50, 60-40. I think that that's how the market's going to play out, um, with those natural U's.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'm very excited for the future. Sean, do you got any questions for me, man?
No, appreciate being on. Thank you.
Yeah, that was great, man. You gave a lot of insight, and you got the wheel spinning now. I'm thinking about the future. What just talks like this get me excited because like sometimes this game can feel very stagnant, but just like the thought of fresh air or the thought of shit changing up and moving puzzle pieces, it gets me excited.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this upcoming roadmap. And I can kind of leave on this note. Um, I really honestly think that with the how the space is developing, this um, play to earn and GameFi blockchain based gaming space is opening up, and the attention it's getting, and with how far in advance they have with the game that Zed has, because they were really innovative really early on years ago. And with the team that they're putting in place, I mean, they got folks from like Goldman Sachs and, you know, Facebook and stuff. I mean, they've got some legit folks over there that moving into the summer months and into the fall of this year, they have a very unique open shot at the basket where they don't have a person guarding them. They don't have competition that's really going to making things real tough for them. And I think if they can hit their shot here later this year, this game could really really grow, and I'm super optimistic about that. If you can get the right user experience, you get the right marketing on a worldwide scale, you have a fun game, and you have an entry point for these new people to come in where they can enjoy it and they're not just getting taken advantage of by established players. Um, like the sky's the limit. I mean, this game could grow very, very, very fast.
Yeah, I don't think we even have like a clue of what this is gonna be.
We don't.
I heard Gary Vee said like he was super bullish on Web 2.0, but never saw being able to hit a button on your phone in a car or McDonald's show up at your front door. So I'm sure there's a lot of stuff we don't see in the future that's just gonna be mind blowing.
Yep. Yep. All right, dude. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Where can people contact you at if they want to DM you?
Best place is Twitter, SN_stables. DMs are open. Hit me up on Twitter.
Sweet. It was nice to meet you, Sean. Thank you so much for your time.
Nice to meet you, dude. Take care.
Have a good day.
Bye.